no one really believed in it, so we sort of had to do things ourselves.
Deadpool may have been drunk.
If you're authentic and you kind of come at it, warts and all, people embrace it.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 411. Hope you're amazing as always and life is treating you awesome. I hope it is. I really do. I'm going to jump straight into it today. You know what I mean? I was looking at what topic to talk about in today's episode, and I really hope that you're loving these because I'm putting a lot into them. We're up to 411, right? Think about how crazy that is. Think about how crazy. 411 hours of me talking. That's a lot. That's a lot. We've definitely got some cool interviews coming out. I'm just loading them up and getting them chopped up right now. They're pretty damn cool. We got like lots of 7-figure entrepreneurs from all different types of worlds, and it's really cool. I'm excited to share those with you, and I'm excited to share today's episode. It's a little bit, the clip I chose is a little bit strange because there's a lot of sound effects going on in the background, but it was the best clip I found because I wanted to. Ryan Reynolds, let's just talk about Ryan Reynolds for a bit, right? He's blowing up the last few years, and he's, not just in Hollywood. He's now doing crazy mergers and acquisition deals, like big deals. You can do your own research about that. And I really wanted to dive into the psychology of how he does what he does. Because we look at these people on the screen in Hollywood, or we look at them on the news or in Forbes and places, and we go, oh yeah, they just got lucky, or oh yeah, they just had opportunities, or they were rich already, or you get the idea, man. But when you work with these type of people, or you look around in the minds of really successful people, they work their asses off. They're always hyper intelligent. They work their asses off, and they take massive risks. They really do. I was just in St. Fort Lauderdale in Florida. What day are we on today? Thursday, so Tuesday. Catching up with a good buddy of mine who's been on the podcast, Dean Gray. So please go and take a listen of that episode. But he runs a $250 million tech company, an app company. And he's going to hate me saying even the word app company because it's so much more than that. He builds social platforms for anyone, for communities, social hubs. And it's amazing. I've known Dean for probably like 14 years. I watched him go from one world to the next world, and I watched him come up with the first ideas about this brand. And it's wild because we were looking at his company online, the profile. I keep trying to not say the word app, but it's an app, right? But it creates your own app, and it's immense. And I'm jumping on it myself. And it was wild because he gives it, look at this. That just came from an idea I had. An idea. Now, he spent tens of millions of dollars on this idea for sure. But it came from an idea. And that's what I want to share with you today. And the journey of Ryan. Not that it's all about Ryan, but it's really about high performers. And that's who I love to work with, and that's who I get inspired by, learning their inner workings, their drive, their story, but how they accomplish things. And they always go balls in. I'm going to use that word, right? They always give it everything they've got. They always go in where most people would be scared to. That's what I've found is one of the biggest traits. And this clip I'm going to break down is really, really cool because it shows Ryan's commitment to get his hands dirty. And what you find is so many entrepreneurs, especially the lots of I've worked with, right? Because they create a high level of success and then they've dipped in success. They've dipped in their own personal performance for many, many different reasons, but they know that they can get back on top of the game, and they know they want to expand into complete blue oceans of uncharted waters, create like 9, 10 figures, right? Or even if you're finding that you're a high performer, but you've dipped yourself and you want to get back to that 7 figures. Whatever it is, right? We all have a certain level of commitment to our vision. And often what I find personally is it just means you're out of alignment and you're bored of what you're doing. You know what I mean? And that's often the case, because what gets you to that level of success will not get you to the next level that you want to achieve. It's a different level of thinking. Your level of thinking is your level of life. Does that make sense? Your level of thinking is your level of life, your level of business, your level of money, your level of happiness, your level of success, right? Whatever that defines to you, whatever that means to you, but your level of thinking is your level of life. And when you can really get that into a context that it becomes powerful for you, you become unstoppable. Does that make sense? You become ferocious again. You become deliberate with your strategic thinking again. Everything changes. So that's what I wanted to share today. Make sense? It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a short episode today, so jump in, but it's also going to be an awesome one. And speaking of awesome things, I'm offering you something very, very special. I want to help you. I really, really do. I have just put my coaching prices up double. My personal coaching prices, I've just put them up double. But I still want to offer like a scholarship to somebody. And maybe it's you. Maybe it's you listening to this right now, you know? I really do. If you are a high performer and you have dipped in success, for whatever reason, you're getting in your own way, you're self-sabotaging yourself, you're absolutely bored, like I said before, you just can't find that fire again, but you really know it's inside of you and you want to switch it on and then expand, massively expand into uncharted waters. Then let's chat. I'm going to bring on someone at my old prices, and I'm going to make sure that you get results like you have never had before. That's my guarantee. So what I want you to do is hit the show notes. I'm going to put an offer in the show description, and click on that apply, and let's just have a chat. If it's right for you, it's right for you. If it's not, it's not. But I just want to have a chat with you, and that's my biggest thing today. Make sure that you're heading over to andymurphy.online for 8-Figure Thinker, the Genius Trader, to hit me up on social, whatever. Head over to andymurphy.online. Okay, that's it. Hit the show description. You got it. So let's jump in to go and hang out with Mr. Ryan Reynolds. Hit those show description.
I'm about to do something terrible. It's 2021 and divisiveness is super boring.
Still hurts to hear out loud.
Show business and acting and storytelling.
Tell me they got that in slow motion.
It's meant to bring some joy or bring people together.
Now do me.
You're welcome, Canada.
Hey there, my name is Ryan Reynolds. I am an actor. I'm an entrepreneur, I guess. And I'm a blood-filled meat suit. People love comedy when it's at someone else's expense, but I think it's even better when it's at your own. I was up here.
Let me jump in straight away, crew. I told you this clip is a little bit crazy because of all the sound effects, but whatever. That first point, right? I'm going to pull all these points out, but that first point was really, really cool. we all don't like to laugh at ourselves, but we all know that some of the things that we do are actually quite funny. You know, if we look back at our life, right? And I've done this game for 21 years, you know? I've done some stupid things, right? It's so funny the things that we think are important, right? It's like being a horse with blinkers on the side of their eyes, you know, so they only can see what's in front of them. It's like we get locked on. And I don't know many entrepreneurs or successful people in anything that aren't really obsessive. Like massively obsessive. And that obsessiveness I absolutely love, right? I actually did a podcast probably like it's 100 and something, right? A long time ago. And it was all about obsessiveness. It was actually called OCD, right? But I know the D-bit disorder is it wasn't like what it is now, but now you can't say the word disorder. And I do get it, right? There's a difference between obsessiveness and obsessive compulsive disorder. I totally understand. So obsessiveness is it makes us lock onto what we want. It keeps us our discipline. It keeps the game plan. It makes us do, well, amazing things, right? And whether a world champion athlete or you're an entrepreneur, it's the same thing, right? We have to become disciplined, which means we have to become very obsessive. So that's a good thing. It's a real good thing. What's not good about it is it can, if we're not leading it in the right direction, it can lead us very much in the wrong direction. And that includes the obsessive nature of our negative thoughts or beating ourselves up. Or if you, like I was talking about before, who I love to help is e-commerce owners, SaaS founders, digital brand owners, and just high performers who are used to success, but they've dipped in it, right? What got them that level of success is that obsessive nature. What also puts them in the dip is the same quality. It's the obsessive nature. Because when we start understanding that the brain it works like a muscle, right? Then we are building these patterns of behaviors again and again, the more we repeat the same pattern. So when we understand that quality with an obsessive nature, that can take us to success. It can take us to absolute self-destruction, right? So we have to learn to interrupt that pattern and then be able to guide it back to where we want it to go. Easier said than done, right? And just because things are common knowledge, and these words I'm using, they're very common knowledge now. They weren't many, many years ago when I started this game. But just because something's common knowledge does not make it common practice. And you find as entrepreneurs, we read the books, we listen to things, we watch the shows, we watch the YouTubes, we put ourselves around the seminars. But the implementation of those things is more of a skill than people realize. To be able to sit down at your desk and drop into the zone or a flow state and be able to like pull information down, and so you can create something. Well, that is a skill. A writer, for example, right, doesn't just write. No, there's a process of how they put them in that peak state to be able to write. Do you get the idea? It's the same with an entrepreneur sitting down at his desk, or the qualities of somebody getting on stage, or negotiating a term, or getting a product going, or getting themselves out of this dip so they can move to phase 2. And phase 2 with what I teach is expansion. Well, we got someone out the dip, then it's expansion, right? So back to Ryan's clip. I say this because one of the things that a lot of us have is with these blinkers on the side of our eyes, we don't see everything, right? We don't see often what's inside of us. That's what the power of a coach, right? Power of a coach is to show you your patterns that you can't see, right? And then keep you accountable to building the correct ones. Now, what he's talking about there is that often we can't see those patterns, so we can't see how silly they are to someone who's outside, right? And often with my coaching, when I'm on stage or I'm presenting or I'm teaching or whatever it is, I like to have a laugh. Do you know what I mean? I like to have fun, because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? You can take life so serious, take business so serious, thinking that that problem that you're dealing with is so important. Really? If we zoomed out, is it that important? If we understand what is in the sky at night, stars, which all have their individual galaxies around them, which probably have more planets like Earth around them, or we go into quantum physics and we're talking about infinite potential, then is your problem really that bad? Well, no, right? So the ability to observe ourselves, interrupt those patterns, and then actually find what we're doing stupid and so we can break it, then that's a really, really powerful quality that so many people miss.
I learned so much of what I do through movies. I mean, I worked on movies that were enormous failures. That's where I learned, like, holy, I need to take some authorship here. That's kind of what happened on Deadpool.
This guy's got the right idea.
We had to put something on the screen that looked like a $100 million movie, even though we had half of that. I championed it like it was a kid of mine. That was kind of where everything sort of changed. The marketing work was insane. I have a suit here at home, and we would put it on and we would go shoot stuff.
At some point, we must all join forces, become a team. This team sucks.
No one really believed in it, so we sort of had to do things ourselves.
I think Deadpool may have been drunk.
If you're authentic and you kind of come at it, warts and all, people embrace it. And that's something I carried over even into marketing.
So a couple of points there. First, can you learn from your mistakes? Can you learn from them? I don't just mean holding on to them, going, you're an asshole, I hope I don't ever meet you again. I don't mean that. I mean, can you learn from them and grow? Because I really believe that business is a straight reflection, a straight mirror of who you are inside. If you're freaking out all the time and stressed and worried and anxious and in reaction mode constantly about the things that are happening, then business is a hard journey. You know what I mean? But like what Ryan's talking about then, $50 million sounds a lot of money for a budget anyway, right? When he's but think about the movies that he makes. But he said, we only had $50 million, not $100 million. So I get that, but it's all relative, context dependent, right? So what that means is that he took absolute personal responsibility. Absolute personal responsibility to make sure that that project succeeded. Now, often what happens is on the journey of success inside of business, what people do is they want to give up the reins too early. Do you know what I mean? They want to delegate so early before they've actually learned that skill. Often people don't know the skill, so they bring someone in who can do that skill. But the challenge with that is if you don't even have a basic knowledge around it, there's a problem because you don't know what that person's truly doing and you can't guide them towards your vision. And I don't mean if you're absolutely terrible at copywriting and you want to bring in a badass copywriter, awesome. But at least take that personal responsibility to learn how to write reasonably well. I ain't the best copywriter. I have dyslexia, right? But I have really worked hard on being able to write better, right? Am I the best? Far from. It's not my superpower, right? I have different superpowers. But what my point is here is taking personal responsibility right up to the finished product in every detail, you know? People used to call Steve Jobs I'm going to use that word again, asshole, right? They used to hate him. But why? Why did they hate him? Well, I'm recording this on a Mac Pro. Well, it's awesome. So do you think that product could have been as awesome if Steve hadn't have been Steve? Now, could he have done it different? Sure, right? He burnt himself. Well, yeah, he burnt his fuel tank out and killed himself, basically. But his micromanaging actually of details, which was because he had such a vision and it was precise. The feeling, everything about it was so precise that it had to be done that way. And thank God it was done that way, because it created what we've got in the world, right? And it was the first $1 trillion company. And what does he sell? In phones and laptops and tablets? That's it, really, right? But it's more than that. He's selling a feeling. When you buy a Mac, think about the packaging. When you walk into a Mac store, it has a certain vibe to it. That vibe was all predetermined. And that is because of his ability to want to portray that to the team in communication. But more importantly, it's because he embodied it. He took full responsibility, man, for every single detail. And that's what I want you to understand what happened with Ryan then. Ryan Reynolds took full responsibility to make sure that product was what it should have been or he wanted it to be. And I want to make sure that you're doing that in your own brand, your own life, your own habit formation, and who you are showing up.
My new movie, Six Underground, is so huge, you're gonna wanna watch it on a bigger, better Samsung QLED TV. I think what advertisers sort of forget is that they don't realize that consumers are aware they're experiencing marketing.
Oh,
Aviation gin.
how'd that get there?
Let them know we're marketing right now. We're making this is a commercial.
Cut!
Hey,
Yeah.
why is your aviation gin ad playing?
I bought mid-roll ad placement.
You bought an ad for your gin within an ad, for your movie within an ad for Samsung TV.
Yes. It felt like the right thing to do. I love growing things, growing my family, growing stories, growing my company. Aviation gin or Mint Mobile or Mountain.
Ryan Reynolds is a complete and total The gin's pretty great, though. I'll have to try it someday.
To have skin in the game to me is also just means like you're personally invested in it. You tend to think on it a little bit more critically and more intensely and stew on it even subconsciously in ways that you don't kind of realize until you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, hey, we should do an ad where Satan in 2020 fall in love.
Now, you don't have to do anything about Satan, right? You don't. But what the point is to that little clip of what he's saying is that an entrepreneur's job doesn't stop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or the evening. It doesn't. It's a creative process. Again, I was talking about my mate Dean I was with the other day, right? Only because we were, just talking about so many things. But he will literally sit there for, spending a couple of hours a day just thinking, coming up with angles, understanding what's happening in the world, finding niches, and really trying to solve problems and trying to create a verbalization or a communication around what he's building and how to communicate that with a specific audience, right? Using different words, different context. Context is if that's even a word, man, but context is, whatever. And that's what people don't understand when they get into this business. And if you're listening and you're running a big 6, 7, 8 plus figure business, if you're running that, and you'll know that you think about these things constantly, right? There's a constant question that is subliminally playing in the background of your mind, and then suddenly an idea pops through. A thought pops through. You're guided to something. And if you don't write that down, if you don't grab that little glimpse of what this is supposed to be, so often it goes, right? So often it disappears. So understand that your unconscious mind is constantly playing and trying to answer these problems, trying to answer them, find solutions. So instead of tightening up and I've got to get this now. No, what happens is when we can switch off the unconscious, when we switch off the conscious bit of our mind, which is the prefrontal cortex, it's the decision making, it's the one that we can also guide in performance by teaching it how to direct its focus, right? Different topic. But when we can understand that we can get rid of that part of our mind and just unlock the unconscious part of our mind, that's where all the juice is. That's where all the creative thoughts and ideas are, and solutions and inventions. That's where they all come from. They don't come from you sitting there going, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, got to do this. No, that's not how creativity works. It unfolds. It builds on, it adds on. Does that make sense? So when we can really get a grip of what that means, then we've got to relax. We've got to understand how to put ourselves in these peak states, these development states, these creativity states, these performance states. When we can do that, then we're going to be relaxed, which means the brain has the right hormones and chemicals, which means then, guess what? A solution pops up, or an idea pops up when we least expect it.
2020.
Please, call me 2020.
Today we're announcing something I'm super excited about. It's called the Group Effort Initiative. Now making a movie that, well, it's a group effort. But for entirely too long, that group has systemically excluded Black, Indigenous, people of color, and a whole host of other marginalized communities. I've been on film sets, for 25 years, and everyone looks the same. It's just, you sort of see that there are so many skilled people out there that have been systemically excluded from the business. These are people who are intensely skilled at what they do, who just haven't been allowed the opportunity to do it. We decided to kind of put that to work on the movies that I work on.
Teams, doesn't mean you need a big team, but you definitely need a team. And even if you don't have many people in that team, you still need a few people. Why? Because you want to be able to leverage your time, right? And you might be a solopreneur doing 7+ figures and go, Andy, I don't need a team. But I bet you've got a couple of people, right, helping you out. And you might not even think them as a team, but they're just experts or badasses at what they do. And then the point is to create the communication to be able to share the vision. So they buy into this vision, I have a VA right now that has worked with me for years, and I've done so many ups and downs of projects. She probably gets annoyed at me. Do you know what I mean? Probably gets really annoyed at me because we start this, then we've changed that, then we've done that, and then we do this, and that's all good. But what always brings me pleasure and the happiness that I have is actually working one-on-one with people. And it's taken me a long time to really understand that. And it was something my friend said to me not so long ago, Shannon Graham. And Shannon Graham is a badass coach, works with thought leaders at the highest level. And yeah, he said something to me the other day, or a while ago. He said, stop being a marketer. Stop being a marketer. You're a world-class coach. You create results in people that very few in the world can. So stop being a marketer and just share what you do with the world as a coach. And that blew my mind. It really made me think. Because so often we can go against our superpowers. And what built my success was me being me out in the world. What creates confusion and stress for me is when I try to be a logical marketer. Now, it doesn't mean we don't need to build brands and all the rest of it. That's why I've got the podcast and that's da-da-da-da. But, and that's a PR person and all these things. But the truth is that team doesn't need to be big. You just need to really work out what your superpowers are. And me being a marketer and tweaking analytics all day is not what I do. It's like Rick Rubin said. If you don't know Rick Rubin, I did a podcast clip the other day. Please go and listen to it. But Rick Rubin, who is one of the most influential people in music ever, right? Ever, doesn't know anything about music. Doesn't know anything about music, he says. They don't know anything about music. I can't play, don't know anything about music. But what I can do is develop the artists and make them create the right decisions, right? And that's what I do. And that's basically what I do. So I just want you to understand the team is very important. You to share the vision is very important. And you don't need a big team unless you want one.
The reasons I love what I do is that it's meant to bring some joy or bring people together. So when I do crawl into a box and turn skeleton, I hope people look back and say, like, he brought as many people along for that journey as he possibly could. If that is sort of where I kind of closed my eyes to this mortal dumb show, be sweet.
I love this. I love what he said because it's legacy. Once you've hit a certain level of success and you've taken the money out of the question, so you're not in scarcity or any mode like that, then what you got to understand is that then what you're doing this for? What are you doing this for? What's the point in working so hard? Aren't you supposed to be hanging out on a beach somewhere? Isn't that the point in being an entrepreneur? Well, maybe, right? But maybe it's creating legacy. Maybe it's sharing laughter with people. Maybe like Ryan, it's creating art. That's what he's doing. He creates art and he wants to create so much art while he can on Earth. And that's badass. Whatever you think about Ryan, you might hate him, you might love him, but he's a badass. And that's all I love to look at and delve in and elicit the unconscious and mental strategies of how people do what they do. That's what NLP 101 is. And I do a lot more than NLP. I do behavioral psychology. I do hypnosis. I do sports performance. I do business strategy, negotiation, solving problems. We do business partner communication. I work on peak performance. I do work with salespeople. As I say, I do so many things. And plus bringing a consciousness to all of this, right? Because ultimately that's all there is. There is consciousness. And so I just really want you to delve into the reasons why you're doing stuff, what you really want, and ultimately, none of this matters anyway. So you might as well just do your best. So crew, that's the end of episode 411. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit different today with the craziness of all the noises in this clip. But again, I just want you to showcase awesome people. And speaking of awesome people, that's you. And if you found yourself now as a founder, a salesperson, e-commerce, Amazon store, SaaS, whatever you're building online, right? If you found yourself stressed out, freaking out, not getting the results that you want or what you know you can, and sabotaging yourself, or you're in a massive expansion right now and kicking ass, and you're about to head into uncharted blue waters and want that support, then guess what? I'm here to help you make the correct strategic decisions and kick ass towards your vision and goal. And so hit those show descriptions. I've got an offer link in there for you to apply to. And keep kicking ass. Until then, much love. Keep kicking ass. I'll say it again. And until the next time, why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.